I just wanted to go through a few of the tricks that I love in PowerPoint and I use all the time and I love to share. But before we get into that, I did want to cover a little bit about how to get started. I know this would be a review for a lot of you. How to get started. I want to point to the brand center. I want to just talk really quickly about keeping it simple and storytelling, and then I'll get into some design tips, and then we'll have time for Q&A, and you can ask me anything that comes to mind, or feel free to ask me in real time. So the first thing I'll do is the AT&T templates. So if you go to new in PowerPoint, it takes a minute, but these you can see they're kind of starting to load here, but they'll eventually load. And there's two different templates, right? There's this presentation template, and then there's the day-to-day one. The one with the blue background is maybe what you'd use for like a town hall, where you're going to have visuals up on a screen. The other one is for more like if you're going to plan to print it, right? Because it's going to have that white background, which is going to be a little bit easier to print. So if you're giving like people printed copies, or you're just sharing it presentation via email or something like that, that's the white background is probably the more appropriate one for that. So again, the blue one would be like if you're presenting on a screen or a webcast or something like that. So just wanted to call your attention to that. You can click on one of these and it'll load up a whole template that actually has a bunch of cool stuff in it that different slide layouts and stuff that you may not have considered before. And then the brand center at brandcenter.att.com. If you haven't been out there, go out there and explore it. It's pretty awesome. You can find photos, both stock photos and as well as AT&T photos that AT&T had commissioned and taken by real professional photographers. There's a color palette out there that you can look at to make sure you're using the AT&T appropriate colors. You can submit a brand naming and review, and I'll just talk about that really quick. A lot of people, they besmirch the brand team, right? Like that it's like so hard to get things approved, but that hasn't been my case. They've been super quick about turning around brand review stuff if you have a question about, and that's usually if you have something that's going to go external or something that's going to go company wide. You generally don't have to do like a brand review for something that you're using within, just within HR or within your team. But if you got something that's going kind of far and wide, it's great to have the brand team take a look at it. They've always offered me really good suggestions on designs and stuff that I've done. So, use their expertise. They're awesome. That's just my little plug for them. But let me pull up the brand center really quick. Hopefully y'all can still see this, or I should have been logged in already. I'll just do that.
And Brett, while you're doing that, this is Debbie.
Yeah.
Brett gave you the address for the brand center. Also, if you go to HR One Stop and go to the quick reference where it has the ABC, if you go to the B for the brand center, you can find it there really quick also.
Awesome, thank you. So one of the ones I use all the time is on this menu button up here, and I go to photography, because people love seeing other people. So your presentations, it adds an element. If you incorporate some of these people in these photos of people in your presentations. I usually sort by date added because I love to see the newer ones first, and that brings the newer ones. And then if you go over here, you can kind of fine tune it, right? You can look at AT&T buildings, or you can look at AT&T employees and vehicles. You can get into some different, file types and stuff if you're looking for a video. There's a few different things that you can do, but I'll often go to this AT&T employees and vehicles, and it'll pull up some of the latest photography that we have, like these great ones out of the call centers. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can change it, to display up to 90 thumbnails per page. And then if I find one that I like, or a few that I like, I'll check mark them. Then you have to scroll back up to the top and go actions and add them to your cart. So it's just like if you were shopping, on an e-commerce site, you can add them to your cart. And then when you're ready to check out, click on My Workspace, and you'll see your cart full of items, and you can choose which ones you want to download. So it's kind of a nice way to go through and save which pictures you want to potentially download without downloading a huge file right off the bat. So that's the brand center. Does anybody have any questions on that before I move on? Okay. One of the biggest things I want to leave you with today is that words are not your friend in a PowerPoint. Especially if you're going to be presenting it to a group. I know it's tempting to put a bunch of information, words, and text in your PowerPoint document, especially if you're going to be emailing it. But if you're presenting it, it's great to edit that down to just the main points that you really want to get after, because you want people to be listening to what you're saying instead of reading the text on the screen. And then one of the other cool things I want to leave you with today is telling a story with your information. So if you're using data in a slide, think about how it relates to the audience, right? So one of the great examples I have is from this book, Made to Stick by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. It's a great book if you're looking for some ideas about how you can make your ideas more impactful and more lasting with your audience. They had this example of a gentleman who's trying to talk to people about saturated fat, and he said, well, there's in a bucket of buttered popcorn that you get at the movie theater, a large bucket, there's 37 grams of saturated fat, which doesn't mean a ton to people, right? Like, is 37 a lot? Is it a little? I don't really know without kind of having that context. So what he did the next time he presented the information is he laid out all these foods. He put the bucket of popcorn next to, full bacon and eggs breakfast, the Big Mac, the steak and potatoes dinner. And those three meals had as much saturated fat as the one bucket of butter popcorn. Now this is sad news for people who love buttered popcorn, but that's not what I'm why I'm here to tell you today. It's a great visual to get people like an emotional response to it, right? Because we kind of have to lead with our emotions. We have to kind of see, especially if we're trying to persuade somebody, right? We have to kind of see what the context of it, how it relates, and this kind of has an emotional impact, especially if you're somebody like me who loves popcorn. I suddenly am rethinking the butter that I put on there. Anyway, so that's let's get into some of my favorite tricks. This is a photo I downloaded from the brand center, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about resizing that. So I have this photo, and I want to pair it with this list of stuff that this is actually we did a Women of Color program a few years ago. So this is from that. This list is, but so I wanted to take my photo and bring it up to the corner of my slide, and I'm dragging it, making sure I'm dragging from the corner. And another way you can do it is hold down your shift key and drag it, but that keeps it from getting out of proportion. And so I'm going to drag it all the way down. Or another thing you can do is you can also use the picture format and resize it up here with these buttons, which is kind of neat to fine tune it, because I know a slide is 7.5 inches tall. So then I know for sure it's going all the way to the edge of the slide, but it's a little bit bigger than what I want. So instead of scrunching it over to make it fit, which makes the picture look weird, like your audience may not know exactly what's wrong with the picture, but they'll probably know something's off. So I use the crop up here on the picture format tab, this crop button, and it puts those little black bars on there, and then I can kind of drag the sides, and it's starting to get a little bit better, and I can even click crop again, and I can move the picture within that cropped frame to get it just where I want it. And even if you hold down the shift key here, it kind of helps you just keep it moving horizontally without going down here. It kind of helps it align to it. So that's pretty good. Now I got the picture the way I want it. I like if I'm having somebody in a picture, I like to have them facing toward whatever text I'm pointing at. So it'd be different if, if she's facing away like that. It'd be kind of odd to have her facing away from the text. So that's something to think about too. If you're going to use a person, along with text, a picture of a person, it's great to have them looking towards that. This is another picture that I got from the brand center, and I want to use this as kind of a background. I'm going to take the whole picture again and I'm going to resize it. I'm just going to go back up to picture format, make sure I'm getting it the right. I'm going to do like that, 7.5. I know it's filling my whole slide. Now, you definitely don't want. I love the background, but my text is not going to be legible with this over the top of this picture. So there's a little trick that I can use. I'm going to go to insert shape, and I'm going to grab a rectangle here. And I know I can make that rectangle, at least 7.5 tall to fill the whole screen. I'm going to do a white fill on it. I'm going to get rid of the outline on it. No outline. And then I'm going to put that over here. And I'm going to bring my text to front. I'm going to click on my text box. Bring that all the way to the front. And I'm going to recolor that the black. Okay, that's starting to look a little bit better. Starting to look pretty good. Now another trick. I'm gonna copy. Control C to copy. Control V to paste. Make a copy of that one. And I'm gonna, instead of making a solid fill, I'm gonna use a gradient fill on it. I'm gonna go down to more gradients. It'll give me more gradient options down here at the bottom. And what I want to do, gradient fill. These are little stops that'll see how when I move. It might be kind of hard to see, but when I move this middle one, it kind of moves this bar in the middle of it. I'm actually going to change it to. I want it to be vertical instead of horizontal. And I want them all to be white because I'm using a white. This picture is a light color, so I want to make these all white. So I got 3 stops in there. If you only want 2, you can drag one away, but 3 stops. And I'm going to take this one all the way on the left, and I'm going to make it. Oh, I want the other one, so I'm going to do this one. I'm going to make it fully transparent. And then this one in the middle, I'm going to make it 50% transparent. Well, you can actually just type right in there, 50% transparent. Now, I'm going to reduce the size of this box just to the edge of that picture where it goes. I'm going to bring my gradient box back in here. And then I'm going to move this. I'm going to put my text back in the front. I have to tell it back in the front because I put that new text box in there. And I can actually play with this a little bit to make it a little bit more the gradient line. So it's a little bit easier to read, and I can even play with this more, if I didn't want it quite as transparent, right? So it can be a little bit easier to read. But then it makes this kind of this nice fade between that background and the photo. So it makes that text really legible to read. And so I'll send you this deck after with kind of some instructions in here, but this kind of shows you what I did to make that gradient. So there's 2 different rectangles. One's a gradient and one's the solid one. If I had a darker picture, this one has a little bit darker tone to it. This is another one I got off the brand center. And again, I'm dragging from the corner. I'm going to hold down the shift key to drag it. Got the size just about right, 7.5. I'm gonna put another gradient box in here, another rectangle. So I draw another rectangle. I know just because I know 13.33. I know that's the width of a slide most of the time. I'm gonna take off the outline, no outline. I'm gonna do a gradient fill on this one. Put a more gradient so I get more options. Here. Gradient fill. And this time I'm gonna make the gradient run horizontally. It's a little bit hard to see here. Let me turn one of these dark. Okay. I want it to be horizontal, so I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna turn all these black color. Okay. And I want this top one to be fully transparent. Again, the middle one, I'm going to make it like 50% transparent, or you can play around with it to your taste. And then I can kind of raise that up a little bit, and you can still see the folks in the picture, but now you have a kind of a nice place to put some text. And I'll show you another way. I'm going to borrow this text from our previous one and bring it in here. I'm going to show you how to create a table. Sometimes I like to present this same information that's in a vertical list in a horizontal way. So I'm going to insert table, and let me look on my bullet before I do that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 bullet points. So I'm going to go table. I'm going to make it 4 by 1. Okay, so now we got this kind of this blue table. One thing I do is I go right away and I click the style, and I select no style. I just get rid of it all. And then I select my pen color. I want it to be the AT&T blue right here. And I'm just going to turn on the inside vertical borders right here. And I might make it like a little bit darker on those. Here, then I might have to select it again after I did that. Okay, so there now I'm going to expand my table a little bit. And I can go in here and copy, Control C, Control V right in the table. Let's see what I can do. My second bullet, put it right in here. Control V. And my third. I know we're running out of time. But and then the nice thing about the table is I can select all those cells in the table, and I can apply a format to them real quickly. And
Brett, we have
yes.
plenty of time. You can go to the top of the hour because we did cover everything else earlier.
Okay, great. And I'm going to bump up the font size, like especially if I'm presenting, in front of an audience. I want to make sure that I've got, at least a 18 to 20 point font. And so you can see I'm getting the same effect of a list, but it's running across the bottom, which is kind of neat. And it's got these blue lines that divide it. And then if you go to the table design, or actually the layout, I can center them vertically. And then, I can kind of mess around with the lines. Sometimes you have to delete that extra space that's put back there. But then I kind of get this nice list. And I might duplicate this slide, so I can do kind of like a slide build. I'll duplicate it a couple times. So my first slide might just have this 1 on it. The second one will have the 2, and then the third. So then as I'm clicking through the slides, the audience will only see that, that first bullet point, and then, I got my second bullet point, and then my third. So you can do that kind of without animation. You're kind of in control of the clicks and stuff. But that gives you kind of another way to do it. And it's helpful because of this gradient box that we put in that makes it easy to see both the picture and have a nice background to put it on. And I have some of my notes here. Again, I'll send that to you. Another trick, here's Lori's picture that I just pulled off of Webphone. And I want to make a slide that introduces, I have a panel that's going to have 3 people on it, and Lori's one of them. So I like to a neat way to present those photos is to put them like in a circular frame. So I go to picture format, and I'm going to go crop to shape, and I want to crop it to a circle. This is an ellipse. So now to make it into a circle, I'm going to choose the aspect ratio 1:1. And then it brings up these crop lines. So if I want to get a little bit closer on Lori's face, which is kind of nice, especially if you're in a big room, you can kind of, oops, that's not what I want to. I'm going to take this, and I can hold down the shift key, and I can kind of zero in on her face, and I can kind of move it within that cropped circle. And then you're not, having to look at it doesn't look like she's so far away. It looks like she's a little closer, a little bit more present. And you get this nice circular frame around here. And I can make adjustments to it, and it's going to keep, the height and width the same, because I set that aspect ratio again to 1:1. So if I adjust the height, it's going to keep it a 1:1 ratio. And then I'm going to go copy and paste. Oops, didn't want to do that. Didn't want to copy my background. I'm going to copy, paste. So Control C, Control V. I'm going to paste another one. These will be like my placeholders, so I can drop in the other speakers. And you see, if I take that middle one, I can kind of hover in the center, and it does those red lines. I don't know if y'all can see it, but there's a red line that goes right through the center of Lori's, and it goes right to the 0. That's how I know I'm in the center of the slide. So I'll make that one there. And I'm going to kind of, obviously my background got a little wonky there. So I got these 3. I want to make sure I'm going to select them all. I hold down my shift key on my keyboard, and I click each one, and that allows me to select all 3. Or another way you can do that is start on the outside of the frame, and you can hold down your mouse key and draw a box over it, and it'll select all 3. And then I'll go to Arrange, and I want to make sure that they're all aligned to the middle, because I don't want one to be higher than the other. So they're all aligned. And then I can also do Align, and I can distribute horizontally. So it moved that one. So like maybe I have all these off here. This is a little bit better demonstration. So I go to Arrange, Align, and I'll align them all in the middle. So it brings them all up so they're in a row. And then let's see, I know I want this one all the way, not all the way to the edge of the border. So then I'm going to select the other 2 by holding down the shift key. I'm going to go Align, Distribute horizontally, and it makes sure that the space between them is the same, which is really kind of a neat thing to do to help you get. It's a quick way to get everything aligned. And I'm going to do my table trick again here, and this time I'm going to do a 3x2 table, because I have 3 speakers. I want to put their name in the top boxes, and then I want to put their title in the second one. So I'm going to do a 3x2. Again, I'm going to turn off all the formatting there, and click on that. I got my pin color to the AT&T blue already. I got a 2¼ point line, and then I'm going to select those inside vertical borders. There we got the nice blue borders, or you can even do without it. So I'll bring that down here and stretch it across. And I'm going to take, and I'm going to paste into here. Placeholders. And I got extra space there, and I just delete. So then I'm going to put her title down here. And the nice part about the table is I can take, so not only can I center all these, and I can bump them up to like 18 or 20, because I want to make sure people in the audience can read it. And then I can just highlight this top row, and I can, I want those to be blue, and I'm maybe going to make them bold, And I'm going to make the name a little bit more, because we're more concerned with the name than we are necessarily the title. And then I kind of would like to have that on a second line. So I'll just bump that down. And now we got a nice list that shows our panel, and I can go in, I can drop in new pictures over these. You can actually do a right click on it and change picture. And I could find another one, you know, on my computer. I could find another. I can find Teresa here. And then go to crop, and I can kind of fine tune that picture. And it still has the same frame around it.
I really want to hear this panel now.
Right? So